Welcome back to part 2 with Sheila Delaney. Hope you have watched part 1 with her last week, and if you haven't, please do so. And let me know what you think of our conversation. And please do remember to subscribe, share, rate, and review Light Up with Schwab podcast. It's a weekly podcast available on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Castbox, Heart Radio, iHeartRadio actually, and Instagram, Facebook, Radio Public, Twitter, LinkedIn. So all most of the social media platforms. So thank you for watching and listening and supporting Light Up with Schwab podcast. Keep doing that and let me know what else do you like.
Okay. So I had asked these 5 questions to everybody. So while you are here, I just want to take this opportunity to get your viewpoint because you are in a little different part of the states, and that's where I think Seattle was one of the first ones.
We were the hospital where the first dozen patients, unfortunately, died is 5 miles from my house.
Oh, wow.
So it was right here was the epicenter for sure.
Yeah. How did you manage? Were you overwhelmed? Were you offering your help? Was it anything going on of that nature at that time?
I would say.
Were you worried at that time?
I was. So this is slightly different. So worry and anxiety are similar, but a little bit different, right? So worry tends to spin more. Anxiety is my flavor. That's what I do. And so anxiety is a function of the gift of being strategic, right? So I run 10 different scenarios in my head, and then I turn each one of them over and I look at them from all the different angles. And I do that in 10 different ways or 50, and I just keep spinning, right? So that's my vulnerability. And what that does to me is it means I'm ungrounded. I'm not present in my relationships or with my family. I'm short-tempered. I don't sleep very well, or I'm sleeping all the time, So there was a time where I was, and I still have days like this, but it hit my anxiety. And it was interesting because as all of this was hitting, I happened to be on just a weekend getaway with a girlfriend. And so she and I were off on the peninsula, just on the western coast of Washington. And she's actually a physician, so affiliated with that hospital that everybody was in. And so we had no reception, we had no Wi-Fi, we had no cell service, but we had to go every day to find it because she needed to get updates, right? So she needed to know what was going on and to find out if she had to turn around and head home right away. So it was really interesting to be there with her.
Wow.
And so I had good, high-quality information right away, which I'm very grateful for, because it was what the hospital was putting out, it was what the World Health Organization was putting out, and then her medical filter. So I found I got anxious, and I started to feel the inevitability, because I'm a deep listener, and it's almost as though I'm listening. If I have a picture in my head, sometimes I'm listening almost to the planet, right? Like, what is the earth holding? And I could feel the stirrings of something coming, and so my anxiety starts to get up, and I can feel the inevitability of something enormous. So I just move through my emotions. That's when I'm at my best, when I'm most grounded, I allow my emotions to move. So I went through grief, I went through surprise, I went through fear for my mother, who lives by herself in Calgary, Alberta, and what's that going to look like? My stepfather, who's in a care facility in Calgary, Alberta, again, what's that going to look like? But as a family, my husband is very steady, and this was very helpful. He is the most stable person I know. Sometimes I want to shake him and be more spontaneous, but that's where in our marriage,
right.
But in this case, that steadiness was so invaluable.
That's very nice.
So that kind of answers your question, but
Yeah.
I think my
that's fine.
approach every
Yeah.
day is to feel
Yeah.
whatever I feel
Yeah.
and to let it move through me.
No, thank you for answering, because you didn't have to. Like, I just was wondering, like, oh, that's where it was, you know? So how did you manage? And I wanted to ask at that time, but so much is going on, and I was like,
Yeah.
it's okay. Let it be.
Yeah.
Let it be. So how are you coping with this so that maybe somebody can learn how to be, you know, how to take care of these challenges? So if you can just briefly say something about it.
Sure. There are a couple of different categories of response, I'd say. So the practical one being, of course, my kids are home
Yeah.
all the time now, you know, doing the online learning. And so there were that first week, I tried to take control and be a boss and make a schedule and do all the things. And I learned really quickly, you know, I have teenagers.
Yeah.
It is different than when they were young. And they don't need that from me. And so we've moved into a very different place. They're both very self-responsible. And so that's been really helpful. We've been able to find a rhythm in our home that allows them to manage their own time. I'm not being hyper rigid about productivity because I know they're experiencing a lot too. My husband is an essential worker in the financial services aspect. So he is going into the office.
Okay.
He's the only one going into the office. So that's a little different sort of from my headspace. Being, you know, is he safe? You know, if I'm going to get anxious. But he feels better going there than to Safeway, for example.
Yeah.
One of the most painful parts of this is being aware of the disparity in our own community. We live in a reasonably like upper middle class, affluent enough area where we have a lot of privilege. And there are so many kids in the schools that my children attend who are only getting fed at school. You know, so it really, the community response, how do we feed these kids? And so really becoming aware of that, and, you know, also aware that there are people taking care, you know, so I looked into it enough to know somebody's taking care of it, but it sits heavily on my heart. So that wasn't the place for my opportunity for service. For me, in my work, I've definitely seen people who are looking for more peace. So when they come into a coaching session, I'm doing more meditation. I'm doing more helping people ground, a little bit more mindfulness, a little bit more guided visualization.
That's nice.
To stay embodied. And so I've opened up my Fridays now for the next month, just gratis. You know, I've just opened it up on Facebook and said to anybody who needs it, if I can be of service from a coaching perspective. I'm not a therapist, and so I'm pretty clear on what those boundaries are, and so I've referred a couple of people. But from a coaching and grounding perspective, I can be helpful. And people are taking advantage of that, and that's really good for my heart. And then the other thing is I found all of a sudden I can sew a mask. And so making some for my friends and just in the area, you know,
nice.
And so trying to reach outside of our home when we're so isolated. And I still, you know, I still wish there was more I could do. I have a hunger to be more deeply of service. And I'm also aware some of that service is deeply valuable at home right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
You know?
Like, your girl and your family needs you, and so
Right.
I assume that you're able to talk to your mother on the phone. And
I am, yes.
Okay.
I talk to her every day,
Okay, good.
almost every day, if not, you know, sometimes it's a few times a day, and then not per day. And
but you're in touch. And,
yes, absolutely.
Enough. More than before.
More than before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
Yes.
Okay. Any positive message that we can get from you in this time? I know there's a lot of, you know, heartbreaks, and there's a lot going on. But there has to be, because I know we have been talking about realistically what is happening. But from you, I would like something that gives hope to people. What message can you give? Anything that you have found in your all this, what's happening, that you have said, oh, this is what I would like to say.
Yeah. one of the things I'm seeing is that we are learning, and the people around me, we're learning how we love well. And what I mean by that is, what is it like to be still and to be present with our loved ones, to listen deeply to their words when somebody is talking to us, to give us their attention, to give them our attention, and to ask for their attention in return. There's a teacher that I follow who says, the most healing power in the universe is the power of love, and I believe that absolutely. So how can I love more deeply, more authentically, with more kindness, even in very small ways? It doesn't have to be the big grand gestures.
Yeah.
It can be praying for my friends.
That's true.
Right? It can be walking past their house and praying a blessing over their home. It can be checking in by text, by phone. It can be offering something in one of my Facebook groups. Here's a thing I can offer. It can be so many things. It can be my kids were sitting out in the yard and cutting up carrots and celery and a bowl of hummus to bring them something outside, right? But to cut it with love and with intention versus they have to eat lunch. Let me get this through this so I can go do my thing, right? Like bringing that spirit of love. There's something profound that we can discover about ourselves by becoming intimate with our hearts in that way.
I want to add to that. And your effort to try to come online with me today with all the hindrances that were coming in, and like, oops, I have this meeting, and oops, this is going on, and oops, this, and after all this, and 3 hours difference, like, okay, so you made it. So that shows that you're caring. I was like, okay, this woman is just, after me. Let me get done with this.
No, it was my joy. It is my joy.
I know. It was like, okay, is this going to happen today or not? Because, so I know.
And
Thank you.
did. We can do hard things.
I know. I know. Thank you. What have you, I know in my one question, everybody's like, these are not 5 questions. These are like 10 questions in 5 questions. It's like, first question has like 3 parts, 4 parts, and the second is simple. And the third one is with 3 parts, like, okay, well, what have you learned, gained, or lost during this time? However you want to answer that.
I have learned what we are capable of in the human experience, meaning when we had that place of seeing each other across the globe, struggling with something that does not respect boundaries, does not respect borders, that nobody is, well, everybody is susceptible to, there's this great unification that has been inevitable. And it was really glorious to lean into and see that, and to see people acknowledging it. To see some of the memes out there that say things like, this pandemic and everybody being shut up in their homes, this is not a lockdown. This is the greatest act of global love that you will ever see, and we won't see again in our lifetime. So that's something I've learned. Something I've gained is a reminder that my devotional time matters.
Devotional time to you or?
To me.
Okay, to you.
My self-care. Yeah,
okay.
that space where I'm in meditation, where I'm in prayer, where I am sitting with the earth, because for me, the earth is my healing place. That's, if I can, I come out and sit by these trees.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they're good medicine for me.
Yes.
Thank you. And so how important that is at a time like this, and how I didn't do that with my family at home. I made that very, very private, but with the kids home all the time, suddenly they're seeing me come out and sit beside a tree in our backyard, and they think it's weird. And that's okay.
And one day they're going to do that, and then they're going to think, oh, we are copying what my mom does it, or it's going to happen.
Yeah. And sorry, my dog. Yeah. And so to do it and realize that if it matters to me, it is worth doing. And so they, and they don't comment about it anymore, so that's something I've gained. Something I've lost. What I'll say? I think for me, because I'm a deep listener, because I'm a deeply spiritual person, I feel that I have gained more than I have lost. Acknowledging that I come from a place of privilege and we are not fearful about how to put the next meal on the table and fearful for the roof over our head. My husband's job is very secure. My clients are persisting. I have a lot of physician clients.
That's nice.
Interestingly. So because we don't have that sort of basic need, I really feel that I have gained more than I have lost.
Beautiful. That's good.
Yeah.
And that's why you're willing and ready to give more.
Right. Even as I'm sad for my kids because they miss their friends.
Yeah.
And they can't do soccer. They're missing soccer tryouts and they're missing soccer games. And they're missing, my one daughter was hoping to spend the summer in Amsterdam dancing, and she missed a dance competition in Florida. And my other one missed 3 soccer tournaments.
Wow.
And a whole season, so there's real grief.
What an age for them to learn something that, we are adults, it's different. But at that age, to be teenager and to not be able to do it, what a lesson they will remember for a whole time.
I will be so curious to know how they talk about this when they're 25 and 35.
True. That's true.
And 45.
That's a good, that's true. How do you envision the world after this is over?
So my bias is, I don't think it'll be over. And I'm going to put that kind of in quotes, meaning, I think the old normal is just gone. The old has passed, the new has come. And I have hopes and aspirations that I can be part of a world in which people love more readily and it sits closer to the surface. I hope that we come to a place where we are redefining productivity to include relationship, which happens in crisis necessarily. I hope that we will be able to stimulate the economy and find ways to sustain our economy in a way that honors the human experience versus exploits or drains or exhausts the people who are part of holding that up. And I hope that we stay plugged into beauty medicine. I hope that when we are back to whatever the new normal is, I will still listen to a physician reading her own Urdu poetry and be deeply touched.
That's wonderful. I hope so too. And I hope we can, we will be in touch and talking and meet each other. And maybe I can join you in your retreat or something. And maybe we can have a retreat in both places together. That would be wonderful.
Yes.
That would be beautiful. Yes. I was envisioning that since some time. So hopefully one day.
Then I will join you in that vision. Yes.
Yes, we will. I mean, I think we can. I mean, we have been thinking. So we'll talk about that. So
the first thing that comes up is cross the border to Canada to see my family.
Yeah, that's true. That's
we feel very distant from them, even though, some are just in British Columbia, just over, less than 3 hours away.
But you can't.
But the border's closed.
Yeah. That's the thing, the first thing. Yeah.
That definitely feels true. And then to go to, I'm so eager for that first soccer game.
Oh.
To be able to cheer on our kids doing what they love as they find
and
normal.
See how they will play this time.
Right.
It might
to see
be
my
different.
Dancer find her new rhythm, so to speak. I'm most eager to see them back in their places.
Wonderful. That was so good. Thank you. Sheila, how can you forgive people and yourself? So what do you say about that? And then I'll ask the last question.
I love that question. I would say self-forgiveness is one of the biggest parties in my work. And by work, I mean my own practice for myself. Because most often when somebody else has affronted me in some way, has done me harm, and I ruminate on it and I re-injure myself over and over and over again, right? They did it one time. But if I imagine it 500 times, I'm re-wounding myself 500 times. right? So the first step for me is always that self-forgiveness and really being able to extend grace to that part of me who didn't respond as perfectly as she would have liked, right? That's when I wake up the next day and I'm like, oh, if only I'd said this, well, everything would be perfect, right? And so being able to forgive myself for either not handling it as well as I could have, for not reading somebody's characters, if I felt taken advantage of, I feel like I was a fool for, say, trusting, right? Once I have done the work of self-forgiveness, then I find if I can feel through all the emotions of whether it's something like betrayal or abandonment or hurt or woundedness, or if I can feel through all of those, forgiveness of the other is almost a foregone conclusion. If I really let myself steep in the experience and the self-forgiveness, my forgiveness of the other kind of takes care of itself. And I say that cautiously because I don't want to be misunderstood as saying, for example, victim blaming, right? Where if somebody has really affronted me, there's a time for forgiveness, and it might not be right away.
That's right.
It really might not be. Right. It's when we are ready to feel everything that goes along with that and to forgive ourselves for whatever, right? For putting myself in that situation, for not seeing, for whatever we want to say. Then we can move towards liberating ourselves from somebody else's rent-free space in my head, as it's been called, right? So that I don't continue to perpetuate the injury. So forgiveness for me, relatively speaking, I think is actually a function of my gifting. I've come to understand through some of my work that, for example, I know growing up in the church, I knew I had the gift of faith. That was something beyond me, handed me the ability to believe in things that are unseen, in the grace of God, in the grace of Goddess, in the grace of the planet, in that we are held to fundamentally believe that the universe is for us, not against us, right? So that's just part of my makeup. And that makes forgiveness a little bit easier, I think. And it's not perfect. I'm sure I still have things occasionally a red light where I'm like, if only, no. So my only goal in those circumstances, if I'm not ready to forgive, is to be present with whatever comes up and not re-wound myself over and over and over. So at least I can do that. And then, I believe forgiveness will flow.
Thank you. Where do you live, in past, in present, or in future? What's your place?
My space tends to be the present. Or a little bit the past, meaning I seek the wisdom of the past. I trust that it is informative.
You don't dwell into past and like everything is not if you're just there all the time and can't move on with it, basically with your life, I guess but that's good. I tend not to. I tend to be able to. Yes, to learn from it. But because it's where I go to learn, it can also be my vulnerability. If I'm tired or if I'm stressed, I can completely ruminate in the past and put my whole self 2 weeks ago. Okay.
So that's my vulnerability. I think most of our gifts come with that side of being a vulnerability as well. And so that's mine. So it's, again, both a gift and I think I have to pay attention to.
So what about future? You don't live in future, do you?
Future, I don't particularly.
Present present mainly. Mainly.
Right, present meaning when I live in the future. So for example, I am not ferociously goal-oriented. Like long-term goals are not motivating to me. What is motivating to me is imagining the route getting there. So I have to build the bridge between the present and the future in order to feel connected to that goal. Which is not very popular in popular culture, right? Where we're all goal-oriented, and if you don't have a goal, you're going nowhere. And I'm like, so I don't do long-term goals. So I would say I do, I hold intentions. Right? I intend to, I aspire to, And it's less about how much money am I going to make, or how many clients am I going to have, or how many experiences are my kids going to have, or how many countries will they have seen. It's going to be more like, what is my felt experience in the future? What do I want that to be like? I want to feel self-respect. I want to feel joy. I want to know peace, right? And how do I carry that with me into the future and create a future that invites more of that from myself and also the people around me?
Yeah. Thank you. Wonderful.
So that's my way.
Very nice. Very nice. Wonderful. Wonderful. I just, I'm glad we made this time. Thank you for making it. I know you have to go. So,
thank you so much.
No, it was wonderful
for all you
conversation.
Do, and, great
and
conversation,
you,
as always.
Yes, same. No, it's really pleasant to talk to you, especially in this time. It's I wanted to, like, I was thinking I'll just have a chat, and then I was like, yeah, why not? We'll have a chat, and if we have something that is people, it's on people's mind, all these things, and how are you spending your time, and how is maybe it gives hope to somebody. Who knows?
Yes.
Right? So that's the point. But I don't know if I hope it gives something good to everybody.
It will. Yeah. Yes. Your heart is evident.
Yeah.
In all of these that you do, and so I know that blesses me.
Well, I wish you all the best rest of the evening. I hope you continue to spread the light and the smile and the beauty that you are doing already, and continue to do that. I hope your daughters, your girls, and your family, your husband, and everybody is safe and healthy. And those who are safe and healthy, I think we get somehow more, I believe in this way, that we become more responsible for those who are not in the same position. So we get to have that more. Yes, we are fine, but then we have to do something more than what others can. But that's how I think.
That's right.
But
yes.
Yeah, I know you are aligned with that. So beautiful seeing
so
you. Thank you, Sheila.
Well.
And please, people, watch and listen and visit Sheila's page, and I'll share that again. And take care.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Take care.
Right.
Bye-bye. Bye.